Starting the call in about 30 seconds. Okay, so it was more like 15 seconds. Good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome. Welcome to our free monthly conference call produced by the Stages of Love. This is Thomas Kuster. I'm the founder of the Stages of Love, and I am the master coach in charge of the company. It's an honor and a privilege to be with each and every one of you. Thank you for being here with me. The intention of these calls, by the way, is to stimulate our thinking, to expand our horizons with regard to the art of relationships. And tonight's call, I'm calling Put Love First. Now, how the call goes, for those of you who might be new to the call, is that I'll generate a conversation, create a distinction or two, and at some point I'll open the lines so that you're aware the lines are muted at this moment. And when I open the lines, you'll have an opportunity to share anything that's there for you. I might pose a question, but I don't want anybody limited to the question I pose, because things might come up for you that you want to just put in the space. You might want to generate an interaction, and I want you to have the freedom to do that. I want you to make this your call, and that you get as much out of being here as you possibly can for you, for the relationships in your life, and for your future. So there's a couples coach that I admire, and I overheard him say one time, his name is Mort Farrell, and he said, "Put love first." And it stuck with me, especially right now, because over the past year, I've been doing a lot of writing and coursework on love. And so I decided it would make a great topic for this month's call. Now, even though we're using the same words here, we're distinguishing something newly together. And my intention is that we walk away with a new regard for love, a new honor for love. And the only way we can do that is if we distinguish it from the everyday, ordinary way that you and I already relate to the word, because I think that everybody would agree that just the word itself doesn't have the punch, the honor, the respect, the magnificence that it really is. So let's just take a look at the word love, and I'm going to change the topic now and call it Put Pure Love First. Pure love. What is pure love? It's a perfect love. Like, consider what I'm talking about here is love like an ever-present energy, a life energy. And this energy naturally lends itself to happiness and peacefulness. It's that magnificent source of creativity that runs the whole universe, perhaps. I'm in love. And there's a number of you on the call that you're in love. And some of you have been in love for a very long time. I've been in love for a very long time. Some of you have been married for a very long time. Some of you are looking for love. Some of you may have found something and you're calling it love, and you're not at a point yet that you can really claim it, because it's not yet stage 3 where there's choice really involved. But I think that as you and I look together, whatever stage we're in our love lives, or wherever we are in our search perhaps, I think it's fair to assert that we spend, that is humans, spend more time in thought and action on getting to what we hope is the love of our life. Right? And let's say that for a number of us, that's where we are. We have settled on, created, gotten what we're calling the love of our life. Then what? Once you find the love of your life, then what? What happens after that? Do you and I continue to seek with that individual a higher kind of love? A higher kind of pure love? Or do we hope that somehow this thing we found, this thing we put together will somehow sustain itself or get better on its own? I mean, I know even as it's coming out of my mouth, it sounds rather ridiculous. And if you look at how you've done love, you might even say to yourself, wow, yeah, that's what I've done. And it does sound kind of crazy. You see, pure love, and we're talking about putting pure love first, is always constructive. Are you always constructive in your relationships, be it with your spouse, intimate partner, families, friends? Are you always constructive? Are you driven by this pure, perfect love? You know, it has healing properties, but it's also unconditional. What are the conditions that you can see that you've put on love? Listen, it's not like you do it on purpose, right? It is part of what we've learned, and it seems natural. It's like if you're not going to do me right, then maybe I'm going to withhold myself. I don't know. It's something to look at just for the moment. Because you see, this love that I'm talking about, I want it to be very clear that it's distinct. It is very distinct from the emotional kind of love that dominates our culture and dominates our thinking. Now, the love I'm talking about, this pure love, this perfect love, it does evoke emotion. It calls for it. But I'm calling this perfect love so that it's very distinct in your mind from that emotional kind of love. Because I want us to leave the call, myself and each one of you and anybody we touch, that there's a sense of this pure, perfect love and the magnificent, magical properties that it holds. Listen, we, as a culture, as a people, hold on to resentments. Take a look now. Take a look in your own life with the person that you love. And right now, you may not be feeling a lot of love. You know, there might be a lot of resentment there, and you may even have a lot of good evidence for that resentment. And then you may have regret, and we hold on to that. So we're holding on to resentment, and we're holding on to regret. We stimulate for ourselves and others suffering. Somehow we think we have to suffer through. It's amazing, you know, when there's things going on that you don't like, and then you suffer through what you don't like. And I don't know if many of us have ever taken the time to say, wow, I may not be able to choose whether or not I go through this painful thing, but maybe I do have a choice if I suffer about it. So we hold on to resentment, regret, and now we have suffering. We have a lot of blame. There's a lot of shame and guilt. Perhaps there's bouts of jealousy and possessiveness and perhaps some envy. And the like of all that, the energy that is, that energy thwarts, it interrupts, or even stops the flow of this amazing, pure love energy. This pure love, it's unchangeable, it's irrevocable, it heals separateness. But if we hold on to that which is going to interrupt it, then what kind of relationship can we really authentically have? So I'm going to ask you to take a moment right now and just think. Not like you haven't been thinking, right? I'm going to pose a question. I'm going to open the lines, but I literally am going to give you a minute to get your thoughts together and consider what you might like to share on this call as a contribution, to stimulate conversation. It might just be some interaction. It may be even coaching that you request. But consider for a moment, in reality, in everyday life reality, what would it look like if we were putting pure love first? So just take a moment, get your thoughts together, and I'll open the lines and you simply say your first name and share.
You are now unmuted.
Okay, the lines are open, and if you're ready, you still have another 30 seconds or so if you need it or want it. But if you are ready, just go ahead and say your first name, and let's see if we can generate some interaction here.
Lindsay.
Lindsay, hi, darling.
Hi. I think what's there for me is that if I were to put pure love first, I would feel irresponsible.
Oh, tell me about that.
A luxury. Well, it's I have responsibilities. There are other relationships to consider. There are other responsibilities in my life such that it's like, well, if I put pure love first, I might be seen as putting a luxury, because people say, like, well, love is necessary, but, you know, like, well, when there's a divorce statistics that so many, you know, couples end or marriages end over financial dispute and stuff like that, it can feel irresponsible because I'm putting that ahead of paying bills, or, you know, like, I'm there for them instead of like another friend who feels like, well, what about me? So to have that be putting pure love first, that is my standard. It just feels like it could become something that is highly questioned in the responsible adult arena.
Yeah, very good. I get it, and it's an interesting response. Thank you for that. So let's look together, if you're willing, and just consider what is pure love. If you were going to distinguish it, and actually, you know, I'm not going to put you on the spot like that. I'm going to do it this way, and then you're welcome to interrupt if you'd like, you know, if you see a different way you want to put it in. But consider that where you're coming from maybe is more of an emotional kind of love. And if that's the case, I'd have to agree with you, because, you know, if you buried yourself into this kind of emotional fantasy perhaps, then other things might go by the wayside. But if you listen closely, perfect or pure love, as I'm distinguishing it here, is actually an ever-present energy, a life energy. It is life source. It's actually bigger than emotional love, even though it can evoke emotional love. One of the things that I would love to be able to leave you with, if you're able to hear it for yourself the way that I've been able to get it for myself. And it's one of those things you just don't know until you trip into it and it's yours. You just don't know exactly how to give it away. But what I have found for myself, Lindsay, is that this thing that I'm calling pure love actually has me more present with everyone. So what I look at is I say, well, my spouse is number one for me. Why? Because we have spent more time and thought and action trying to find that, and I'm interested in having a soulmate, and I don't believe that soulmates happen in heaven. I think that we create the soul connection here. So it's a belief I have, not like an argument. It's like a belief I have. And that in order for me to have that, I must see clearly. And I'm saying if I make pure love first, that is open-hearted, life energy moving through me, and I make unconditional opportunities for people to be connected with me, I think that everything works better. Can you hear that?
I can, and I'll continue to play with it.
Yeah, thanks. And really, thank you for your contribution. It's awesome. I really appreciate you being here.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else.
Charlie?
Hey, Charlie. Good evening.
Hey, Thomas, everyone. So I'm hearing something, and I've never been able to create this inside of a relationship.
Yes.
Particularly with a woman, but I've never been able to go up to her and say, hey, is there anything I'm doing or any way I'm being that doesn't work for you? And, give her space to say what's ever there without making her wrong. And the intention there would be to build and create trust. And,
yes.
And not only that, I get feedback on how I'm being inside the relationship for her.
Right. So what I think I hear you saying is one way that you could put pure love first, perhaps, would be to create transparency, where you could be open and ask that kind of question and be free enough to hear it.
Yes.
And then maybe even free enough to make changes if it makes sense to you. I think that's very powerful.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to give you, just like with Lindsay, I'm going to give you another twist on it, because, that's my job, right?
Okay.
Not in any way to make wrong your view. It's a beautiful view. I just want to twist it a little bit and say, what if who you were already being when you went into the relationship was someone practicing pure love first, like pure love as the life force of everything. So it's the most important thing. It is above everything else, and it's inclusive. It is this magnificent power that runs the whole universe, like that, right? Consider it like that. And if that's what you were making first, then maybe in that relationship, there would just be a natural transparency that maybe wouldn't necessarily even have to be communicated. You may not ever even have to ask, because you would be so in tune with her and she's so in tune with you. Maybe, right? I don't know.
I could get that as a possibility. I totally can get that. Yes.
Right.
That.
Right.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it for me, Charlie, is that the game starts now, not after you meet the woman.
Thank you for that. I get that.
Yeah, thank you. It's really, really great. I have time for one more if somebody wants to jump in.
This is Valerie.
Hey, Valerie. Good evening. Are you in Los Angeles? No, you're back north. I'm so crazy. Yeah, you're back north.
Hey, yes, I'm in Berkeley.
Yes.
I think my question/comment is in line with the first two, and I believe you're so right when you say we don't have a lot of models for this kind of pure love.
Right.
And the love that I keep coming back to is pretty maternal, like the love of a mother for a child. And I know that what you are pointing to is something much, much bigger than that, inclusive of that. But I guess I was looking for a way or a place to stay perspective to have that is beyond maternal, because that feels very, very dangerous.
It feels dangerous and a little limiting, doesn't it?
Yes. In an adult relationship, it feels dangerous and very limiting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let me make a statement and see if it moves this conversation forward between you and I. And this is for everybody. This pure love, it's not logical, okay? And this is what's making the conversation kind of fun, because it's not a logical conversation. And just like Valerie said, we don't really have very many models for it, so we don't exactly know what it looks like. But I think deep inside, everybody knows there's some possibility there. Like, what is that possibility? We don't necessarily know. So we'll take the case that this pure love is not logical, but rather ontological.
Yeah.
So consider that it is a way of being, and this way of being, Valerie, I'm suggesting it's a way of being with all of it, with everything. Like, it's a way of dissolving separation. And in dissolving this separation, it actually has us able to be with what we like, and even equally with what we don't like, without any effort to change any of it. I think that we distinguish this in our course as mindfulness. To be mindful is the ability to be with right now, like in love with life so much that I am right now in this moment, not trying to change any of it. No, and if it's something I like, I'm not hopeful that it doesn't disappear soon, because chances are it will. And if it's something I don't like, I'm not dug in, fearful that it's going to be this way forever, because of course it's not. It's the ability to be ever present with what's so right here, right now. What does that evoke in you?
Absolute agreement with that, knowing that it's something that has to be practiced. It's kind of like that heart space that I've heard you talk about before.
Yeah. And here's the practice. I'm sorry, sweetheart, please. I don't want to cut you off.
No, I'm saying definitely seems possible. It is.
Yes.
I know that it's possible.
Absolutely possible and wonderful. And the practice, everybody, the practice is giving up resentment, regret, suffering, blame, shame, guilt, jealousy, possessiveness, and envy. Now, fundamentally, Dr. Gerald Jampowski boils all that down to one word. He says it's all fear-based, so letting go of fear. But the practice is letting go of those things moment by moment and forgiving yourself when you're unable. You know, sometimes you're holding on to resentment and you want to give it up and you find yourself unable. Well, you've got to be able to forgive yourself enough so that you can continue the practice until such time you let it go, and then you start to learn what it looks like and what it feels like to authentically let something go. And I'm going to tell you what it looks like is that you simply not ignore anything. It's not about ignoring. It's about you see it, you let go of it as though you were dropping a ball or dropping a pin out of your hand. And what it feels like is not holding on to the past. See, the only way that I can have resentment is if I'm holding on to the past. Got to let the past go. It's the same with regret, suffering, blame, shame, guilt, jealousy, possessiveness, and envy. They all have a root in the past that robs me of my present. But it's not just robbing me of my present with a T, it's robbing me of my present, NCE. That's the practice.
Yes.
Is it an easy practice? Sort of.
No.
Not really. Sort of. It's not. I was watching a movie last week. I watched The Imitation Game. And there was one phrase out of The Imitation Game that I had to write down. And I messed around with it a bit, and I'll continue to mess around with it. And I'm going to sloppily recreate it for you. It said, human beings are attracted to violence. Do you want to know why? Because it feels good. Now, it struck me odd. But it also struck me in a way like, oh, I get that. But I had to translate violence into this stream of words that I gave you. Consider resentment, regret, suffering, blame, shame, guilt, jealousy, possessiveness, and envy are all doing violence to our spirit. And somehow we're attracted to it and don't know it. And that's what makes it hard to let it go.
Yep.
So it really ups the ante in the game, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What did you get stuck with? I can hear in your voice.
No, I don't think it's stuck. I think it's just like the enormity of it. It's like, wow, it really does mean giving up. And of those string of words, the thing that shame is there, but you know that embarrassment when we don't want to be embarrassed or ashamed because somehow we make it that they won and we lost.
Yes.
Being willing to drop. That's the huge one.
Yes, and this is great that you say that, because one of the beautiful things about the space of pure love is winning is no longer the goal.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. And I am going to open the lines again in a few minutes, you guys. I'm going to mute you for now.
You are now muted.
And, you know, given everything we just generated, I'd like for those of you, excuse me, who are with spouses, you know, you're married, or you have a significant other that you've gone beyond stage 3, and just wonder, what if I were able to practice this high level of being, what would it look like in my marriage, and what would it look like in my relationships? Just let that roll around. We're not going to take anybody with that at the moment, but I'd like for it to be there for you, because when we hang up, I want everybody to have something new, even if it's just something new from this month to next month's call, right? If you can make it last a month, then we've got our job done. So we left off with it's a way of being, so it's an ontological thing. And just think about our relationships, our lives could be a wondrous adventure, one that excites the very core of our humanity. That's what it really looks like to put pure love first. It looks like transcending, now listen closely, transcending the small self-perceptions. So remember, there's this smaller part of you and there's this bigger part of you. And when you put pure love first, it transcends the small self-perceptions, or misperceptions, as I like to call them, and it rises to a higher truth. And that higher truth evokes a quantum forgiveness. Now stay with me on this one. That higher truth evokes a quantum forgiveness, and that quantum forgiveness brings about a oneness, a wholeness, an interconnectedness. Think about that. It dissolves separation. Imagine how much you could accomplish if you dissolved separation. You know, when Lindsay brought up the irresponsibility, imagine how responsible you must be to have this kind of discipline and commitment that you could put pure love first, everything would have to line up. I mean, it just wouldn't have any other option. What kind of relationship would you have? What kind of marriage would you have if you were that disciplined and if you were that committed? I had a call with one of my clients, and we were discussing this very conversation. And he said to me, he goes, gosh, maybe what it would look like is that every single person that I know and care about, every single one of them would be, every time I was with them, it would be like the first time. It would be like they could be brand new every single time. And I was like, wow, that turns me on. That turns me on. That I could be face to face with each individual that I care about, that I love, and that I was so forgiven. Keep in mind now, there's this forgiveness of your own self. But I was so forgiven that the forgiveness just comes out of me like a space, and that gives everybody a brand new opportunity in my space so that I see them brand new every single time. Could you be with your spouse or your lover or your children or your parents like they were brand new? I mean, to me, that's mind-blowing. Could you walk in that kind of forgiveness that you would be free enough that you would have joy in offering that freedom to those around you? Now, one thing I know about human beings, so I'm going to go ahead and address this, and that is some people might be hearing when I talk about this being with people brand new and this quantum forgiveness, that it would be an excuse to put yourself in harm's way. Forgiveness does not mean you are a doormat. It does not mean that you keep yourself in spaces that clearly do not work, that aren't healthy, or that in some way are a threat to your life or your survival. Of course not. This is a very fine line that you must walk. But when you make pure love first, the fine line is clear. Do you understand? It is clear. It's not fuzzy. You don't have to wonder. You trust your intuition. Because to be that big, you must be that clear. So I'm going to open the lines for the last time and allow you to put anything in that you want. What I'm going to say about what I'd like to hear from you, but again, you're free to share anything that you like. Will you make loving now, right now, this moment, will you make that more important than reaching for anything else? And
You are now unmuted.
I've opened the line, and anybody can share if you're ready, and I'm willing to give you a minute to formulate your thoughts if you need that. Just say your first name.
This is Rasha.
Hi, Rasha.
So, what you said is really powerful, and I've been kind of exploring that. And it's like when you catch a glimpse of something, I can see a glimpse of it in my life.
Yes.
A sensation, an experience, and then it's gone. So I appreciate what you're saying about just becoming aware of it makes a certain space available.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like something I haven't tasted before, so it's very new for me.
Yeah, very sweet, very sweet. And then what I think, well, given I know you the way I know you, I know that you are practicing making loving now more important than anything else you're reaching for, just for the game of it. Yeah, me too. Yeah, thanks, Rasha. Thanks for stepping in. Anybody else? Well, if you want to step in, you just talk over me, okay? Because I'm going to start completing the call. Because all I want to say is that is how to be happy. And you and I can no longer afford to postpone joy. You and I can no longer afford to withhold who we really are in this life that we have. And as far as we know, it's the only one we got. It's time to practice. It's time to practice authentically connecting at the level of soul. Make people know you. Your real you. And those of you who are married, make a commitment to create your spouse as your soulmate. Don't look for evidence that they are or they're not. Take responsibility for being the one to make it so. So if there's anything that anybody would like to say to complete the call, the lines are open, and I would love to hear from any of you.
Charlie.
Hey, Charlie.
Hi. A few minutes ago, you were talking about the practice and being so clear. And one of the things that you mentioned that I've been practicing and I find it really does work is forgiveness, self-forgiveness.
Yes.
And just acknowledging, I did that. Oh, I'm forgiven. It just allows everything to move.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for practicing that. And as you practice, I want you to continue to formulate for yourself, what is that really? What is that space of forgiveness? What is that? Like, not to answer anything now, it's an inquiry to be in, right? Thank you for that. Anybody else? Yeah, thanks, Charlie.
This is Jean.
Hey, Jean.
Hi. I don't know about completing the call because I feel kind of in a strange place.
Talk to me.
Yeah, I feel like, what you're talking about, it sounds fantastic and like, of course, this is like, it makes sense and it feels good and it just like this is the way it should be kind of thing. But I noticed that I feel, when you ask the question, are you willing to put love first, put pure love first? I just noticed like I have resistance. And I'm just sitting here thinking, is my resistance like, am I addicted to suffering? Am I addicted to, talking about what's not working in a particular relationship, friendship, family member, or whatever? Anyway, that's just what came up for me. Like, is there something going on that, because it sounds very utopian and, and this is the way, that everything is going to work so much better. And yes, there's practice, there's things I need to practice, and not that I don't want it, but I'm just noticing, just to be completely honest, like I don't feel like, okay, I'm going to get off the phone and I'm going to start practicing right now.
Good. Well, thank you for that. And I get it. It sounds utopian-like. I thought that was really good. And you said, gosh, I don't know. Am I addicted to something? But what I wrote down is, there is an addiction, and your addiction is to answers, consider this for a moment. All there is to do is to notice your resistance and let it go.
Okay.
Versus noticing your resistance to create a conversation with yourself about why you're resisting. No, you notice the resistance and you just practice letting go of the resistance. And then something else I want to point to that I thought was brilliant that you said. You said, I know that everything would work better. And here's what I want to say about that for everybody. I don't know that everything would work better. I don't know. I don't know that it would. Here's what I do know. And I'm going to say something that I know, not an idea. What I do know is that everything works the way it works, and you're willing to dance with how it is. And that is very distinct from resisting, trying to change, trying to escape, trying to figure out why this or that is happening. There's a different kind of life when you're able to dance with what's happening, not like it's happening to you, but that it's actually just happening. And that is a whole different relationship to the life energy that you and I have been blessed with.
Yeah.
What does that leave you with right now, Jean?
You know, it's really great because it leaves me reminding myself of the acceptance of what is. Yes. Yes. Very good. At the same time, willing to practice.
Yes. And the beautiful thing about accepting what is that in reality, if you don't, then all you're doing is resisting, because you and I have very little to say about it, do we?
Right.
Because things are the way they are right this moment, and we can either accept it or resist it. There's no in between. And acceptance and being with is very powerful. So thank you for that. Jean, thank you everybody who stepped up and shared. Thank you everybody who's on the call who didn't share. I appreciate every ear that's here that creates a space for something new for all of us. So I want to plant the seed for next month. November 20th is our next call for next month. Please be on the call and invite anybody you like for just before Thanksgiving. I think it would be a tremendous opportunity to be together as we grow and expand in every way that we can find possible. I also wanted to say something that went right out the window, so I have no idea what it was. So therefore, we'll just forget about it this time, and I'll say goodnight to everybody, and look forward to working with you. For those of you who want a private opportunity to be together, I do offer coaching services, and my website is www.thestagesoflove.com. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you.